what's up everybody? How you doing? It's Colin here with Big Shot Supplies. Today I got a phone call from a customer of mine, and they were wondering the best way to clean a commercial space that had been previously occupied by a company who, did their work in there for many years, and they were moving everything out, and the ground was just covered in oil and grease, maybe some rust, all kinds of things. So just wondering a few things about pricing and also just a method to do it. And the method that I've used over the past few years has seemed to work really well. We do break things down a little bit, the pricing and like options. But yeah, we offer it to them as a package initially, and then just kind of put a few things on the side of alternative options that they could do. Or if this arises, then we will do this and it will be an extra cost. I won't go into too much detail about all of that, but I'll try to give you as much information about it as I can. So let's say there is a 10,000 square foot location, and in this scenario, the company who has been working there and occupying it has now moved out, and they want to get the place ready for the next company that moves in. Obviously, these places aren't necessarily expecting it to be just perfect because you can't necessarily get rid of all the oil stains and everything, but you can do as good of a job as you can. So for pricing, when it comes to square foot pricing, typically with let's say driveways, the average kind of number that people are charging per square foot for a 1,000 square foot driveway is anywhere from 20 to 25 cents or up to 40 cents a square foot, maybe even more. But that's just because it's a smaller area. But once you start getting up into the 10,000 square feet, 20, 100,000, a million square feet, naturally what happens is your square foot price is going to drop. If you get up to a million square foot parking garage, you might be in the pennies per square foot versus 40 cents square foot. So the smaller the area, typically the higher the square foot price, and that's just kind of a common rule. And there might be some places that deviate away from that, but general rule of thumb is the more square footage that you're going to be cleaning, the lower your square foot price is. Now, for something like a 10,000 square foot place, if it was just nice and easy, there was no oil or grease or rust, then you could get into that 20-30 cents a square foot, maybe 15-20 cents a square foot, whatever you like. But when you start getting the oil and grease, you're going to have to either tack it into your square foot price, or you're going to have to separate everything. So a cost to clean it, and then a cost for the degreasing aspect, and then a cost for the acid that you're going to put down to get rid of tire marks and reclaim, and everything broken down separately. Some people like to quote like that. Some companies like their quotes to look like that, so they have options. So that's just a little bit about how you can, set up your quote for the customer. Now, lots of times you'll talk to them about this ahead of time. Lots of times you'll just do it the way that you like and then send it to them and they can choose. Sometimes you'll send it the way that you like to lay everything out, and they'll ask you to make some revisions to it. And this is all very common. Now, when it comes to the actual process of cleaning it, that's what I'm mostly excited to talk to you about. For me, one of the ways that I like to do this is I always like to make sure that the area is prepped as best as I can get it. So I might either go in there and leaf blow the entire area first, if that makes sense, or I will call in a sweeper truck to go in there and do like a vacuum sweeping on the place where they're getting rid of all the dust and kind of loose debris ahead of time. But I'll obviously decide this based on the condition of the area that I'm working at or quoting on. And also a few other factors, like if there's enough room for a truck to get in there. So those are a couple things that you want to take into consideration. Now, let's say you get a sweeper in there, they come in and they clean everything up and prep it for you. The first thing that I like to do, especially if it's really covered in oil and grease, is to give it a pre-clean. So either a power rinse where we're just rinsing everything, or a surface clean ahead of time. So a nice slow pace and just go over everything and get rid of like kind of the low-hanging fruit, all the easy stuff that's just going to come up with like the cold water or hot water if you're using it. Get rid of all that first and then apply my degreaser to the ground and then resurface clean it. So that's one way of doing it. Or you can just go in there and just throw degreaser over everything, let it dwell for 15, 20 minutes, and then start surface cleaning it and rinsing it. Then you will apply your degreaser. And I personally like to apply my degreaser with a downstream injector. I put it directly into the bucket and then I get a 10-to-1 ratio from that. It's just a really good way to put down a good hot mix. 10-to-1 is a very strong mix if you're using a good degreaser. And at the same time, it's not applying way too much degreaser where it's going to be all bubbly and soapy. So put down the degreaser and let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes and then resurface clean the area nice and slow. Then give it a rinse. If you notice that there is some rust or tire marks on the ground and they want to get rid of that, then you would apply, for the tire marks, you'd apply a product like EBC Restore is a good one. You can do that at a 10-to-1 ratio also. You could also use a product called F9 Groundskeeper, which works equally as good. And then there's a product called Hot Stain Remover, which also works equally as good. And I would say, I've tried all three of them, and I would say that they each work equally as good in their own situation. So I've had times where the Hot Stain Remover worked better, and sometimes where the Restore worked better, and sometimes where the Groundskeeper worked better. And I haven't necessarily figured out a rhyme or reason why, but I will say that I really like Groundskeeper. I think it's a phenomenal product. I also like EBC Restore in a lot of situations too. And Hot Stain Remover has been really good to us as well. So these are three products that I'm always confident in using. And again, I usually do a test section. I'll have all three products on me and I'll do a test section and see what's going to work better on this specific area that I'm cleaning. And then I'll just run with that. And all three of them, I have noticed that you can do this at a 10-to-1 ratio as well. If you are looking for it to get off the rubber stains off a little bit quicker, a 50-50 mix also works. And with that, I would usually have set up a 12-volt pump and just filled up a 50-50 mix inside of like a 5-gallon bucket or a 15-gallon like bucket, like a garbage can, and make my mix in there and then hook up a 12-volt pump to it and then just apply that like onto the surface and let it dwell for 10 to 15 minutes. So if it's really, really, really bad, I would recommend with all three of those products I mentioned to go with more of a 50-50 mix. Let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes and then resurface clean it. And you will notice the tire marks just disappear before your eyes. They come off so easily. There's a lot of money to be made in removing tire marks. Most companies don't know the products to use. And then once you've done that, you will go ahead and rinse. And what I like to do as an added touch is I like to, again, now downstream degreaser onto the surface, which is going to help neutralize it even more than just the rinsing of the water. So I apply the degreaser, let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes. And if you really want to, you can surface clean it again, or you can just simply rinse it all. It's going to give the area a better smell. You can even add a scent cover at that point to help it smell like degreaser and a little bit of whatever scent cover you use. We use Apple Boost. And then again, yeah, just rinse it. Now, when you're using all these degreasers and surface cleaning all this oil and you're using acids, it's a good idea to be reclaiming it. We have the vacuum boom system and we've used that out in the field quite a bit. You would set that up and you just have the vacuum barrier set up and you'd push all the wastewater to that vacuum, how the vacuum works is it will collect all the wastewater and then it has an automatic dump on it. So as soon as the vacuum fills up to a certain level, It's going to pump the water through a hose that you would have connected to a tank, and then you would just fill that tank, and then when you're done, you would transport that tank away and bring it to a reclaim facility. So you'd have to make sure you know of a reclaim facility ahead of time in your area. They can be tricky to find. And then bring it there, let them know what it is. They're gonna test the pH of the fluid that you're bringing to them, and you'll let them know what's in it. And then they will take it away and reclaim that water or do whatever that they do with it. And there's going to be a cost to it. So you want to make sure you find that out ahead of time if that's the route you're going, which is the most responsible route. Instead of pressure washing and removing oil and using an acid and then putting it all into the storm drains, that's just not the right way to do it. So you want to find out those prices ahead of time, and then you want to find out the cost to get rid of the wastewater, and you want to apply that separately to the quote or on the invoice to the customer. And in fact, when you do this, you separate yourself from the other companies who are quoting on the same property. They see all these quotes come in from different companies who aren't mentioning anything about being responsible and collecting the wastewater. And then they see your quote where you've identified everything, all the possible scenarios, and you've also identified capturing the water and responsibly getting rid of it. Lots of times they will decide to go with you just because they feel more safe using your company. It looks like you are more professional and understand what you're doing, which would be the truth. And then, there's less chance of headaches, because most people that you're working for understand that dumping oil into the sewers and storm drains is not a good thing. And there's, in fact, way too many companies out there doing that. And I think it's just a really good thing to add to your quote to help establish yourself as a professional company. So again, just to recap, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you prep the area as best you can at the very beginning. You're going to surface clean or power rinse the entire area just to get rid of all the surface dust and oil, anything that can come off nice and easy, so that when you apply the degreaser, it's going to work and do its job better because you've gotten rid of a lot of the loose material. So now you apply it, a degreaser, typically at a 10-to-1 ratio. You're going to let it dwell. Then you're going to surface clean it and then rinse. And then you're going to evaluate it to see what it looks like. And if you need to get rid of rust or tire marks, which are very common inside of warehouses, you're going to apply an acid, which would be EBC Restore, F9 Groundskeeper, or Hot Stain Remover. That would be specifically for the tire marks. If you're actually trying to get rid of rust, you would use a product called F9 Bark or One Restore. Those are the two products that you can use for the rust. And these are the most common things that you see in these warehouses. So you would apply those. And with the rust, it's a little bit different of a step-by-step. You would kind of clean the whole area, let it dry, mist it wet, and then apply the rust removal remedy, and then continue to apply it until it goes away. And you can use a 50-50 mix that I found has been the very best. And then you would spray a degreaser on it to neutralize it, and you would rinse it away. So that's that. But when it comes to the tire marks, you can use a 10-to-1 ratio or a 50-50 mix. You would apply it to the surface, let it dwell, resurface clean it, and then rinse it away. So that's how I like to do it. Just get everything prepped, get it down to the easiest kind of place, put down degreaser, surface clean, and then rinse it away. And again, try to take into consideration that we want to rinse this stuff into a recovery system, which on our website we have several recovery systems available. They are very expensive, so I understand that not everybody has them, but the little vacuum boom systems are very affordable considering the cost of doing it the wrong way, the fines and penalties that you could incur from doing that. So it's definitely a good thing to have on your rig or available at your shop when you do need it. Hopefully this helps somebody today just kind of maybe look at these bigger projects a bit differently as for the square footage pricing and the methods that you would use to achieve really good results. Please feel free to leave some comments in this video and let me know if you agree with this process, if you've tried it before, if you have a different process. Hope everybody is having a good time out there and having a good spring 2024. And feel free to visit our website, www.bigshotsupplies.ca.